The Windows Setting app is a tool that replaced what used to be known as Control Panel for Windows. They do very similar things, which is they allow you to control the look and feel and the personalization of Windows. Now, there's a lot of things that we don't necessarily need to worry about, or sometimes you only go in and do once, like setting up your network and internet connections, or maybe linking to a mobile device. But there are things that you can do and you might want to change from time to time. So let's take a quick look at those to see what it's like and how to make those changes. First is going to be our system. Now, because there are so many different system settings, you can always come up here to the search bar at the top left hand side and type in what you're looking for, and it will help find it for you. Now, you can do things like change, do you want a night light? If you select this, at a certain time of night, it'll start to do things like dim your screen and other things like that. You want to know what it does exactly? Here's a link, Nightlight Settings, and it can tell you how strong it is, when you can schedule it, different things like that. I can use my back arrow just like I might on a web browser and turn it back off and on. I can set my scale and layout. So 100% is just the normal size of things like your icons on your screen and the text underneath them, things like that. I can change it and make this larger. So if maybe you're working with a parent or a grandparent and they're having a little bit of a hard time seeing things, you can slightly to dramatically increase the size of items on the screen to make it easier for them to see. You can set your display resolution, and there's different ones here. Include a recommended one that you normally want to stay with, and you can go down further and further. These are all display settings. Now I can go to sound, and I can choose things like my volume and what's my input. I can do things like my notifications that are going to show up in my notification bar on the bottom right hand side of my taskbar. And I can go down these over and over again. A common one that you may need to change will be the power and sleep. Maybe your computer turns off too quickly because it turns off the screen after only being inactive for 5 or 10 minutes. You can make these changes to let it be based upon your needs. I'm going to go back to home. And you notice it takes me back here to my main screen. I may need to go to devices if I'm setting up a new device, like a new printer or a new keyboard and mouse, although most of these are known as what we call plug and play. That is, I plug them in and they just automatically work. In the old days, we used to have to do a lot of configuration to get things to work, even something as simple as a mouse. But nowadays, with plug and play, we typically don't have to worry about going into devices unless there's an issue. The other ones that you might want to look at will be personalization. This is where I can do things like change my background image. I can change some colors. I can change how things fit. I can even pick things like themes. So if there are themes that I can have that are provided for me that have different background images that are used, the colors are designed to match with this, etc. I have a section for fonts, so if I need to use a new font, I can drag and drop it to install that font, or I can pick some existing fonts in here. My start will let me see things like, do I want to show more tiles in start? Do I only want to show my most used apps? Other types of things that you can see here to make it a little bit easier for you. And we have our taskbar. So you might have noticed in previous videos that my taskbar hides automatically. That's because I have it to hide so it doesn't get in the way of my apps. And then when I roll over it, it appears. There's other things that you can do. You can look at these notifications as you wish to customize it based upon what you're looking for. The other one that you might want to look at is something called ease of access. This used to be called accessibility, but they changed its name with Windows 10. So this is another place where we can adjust the size of our screen. We can choose to say, do we want to do animations or transparencies? These are all important for the performance of your application, but also how well it's used, especially by someone who might have different types of impairments. Let me show you. So I'm going to come over here, my mouse pointer, and let's say someone has a hard time seeing the mouse pointer because it's kind of small. Right now, mine is set to the smallest or the default level. I can increase its size, and now it's much easier because it has a bigger outline and it's physically larger, covering up more space. It works exactly the same, but it's just much, much bigger. I had to do this for someone in my family who was having vision issues and they needed to be able to easily find it. I simply came in here, changed my mouse pointer size, and they had no more issues. Other things, if you sometimes have a hard time seeing, is turn on a magnifier, which allows you to hover over something and it makes it larger for you. Kind of like use that magnifying glass. I can choose high contrast, and you can see an idea of what this is going to look like. You might go, this is very shocking. And yes, it is. It's designed to be. The high contrast is designed to be very stark and make it much easier to see and read things. So once again, it's just a way of helping people who might have a visual impairment. You can even choose certain themes within your high contrast, just like you have normal Windows themes that we saw earlier. Finally, Microsoft doesn't only support just visual impairments. When we come down to hearing, we have a section for audio where we can control and make things louder if necessary. But we also have a section for closed captions. So that way, if someone is hearing impaired, they can see on their screen what's being said. We can change the caption style and font, as well as things like the size, effects, and more. We can also, if we choose to, turn on things like speech recognition. That way, we can talk and issue commands through speech instead of having to type. So this is typically used if maybe you have someone who has a hard time using a mouse and keyboard. This provides an alternative way of interacting with the Windows operating system and the applications that are installed. Now, if you want to know more about installing applications, we're going to talk about that coming up next.